What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a special edition of La Banca Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Segovia, alongside two of my co-hosts, Fidel, Alandre, and Little Man. How you doing?
Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están, muchachos?
¿Cómo está todo? En inglés, en inglés. Estamos en inglés hoy.
Oh, in English? Oh, OMG.
Yeah,
OMG. How you doing, fellas? We're doing a
OMG,
special edition
I
today in
know.
the Banco Podcast.
We haven't done an English show in a long while. So, there's been requests for it, and there's obviously a lot of movement right now with the winter transfer window. So why not just do the winter transfer show in English? Fidel, what's going on, bud?
Hey, I'm good. I think some people got to hit the SAP button, turn it on to a different language. I'm ready with my drink, though. You guys know we're just friends. We're not professionals. We're just having a blast. And, of course, you have to have your drink in hand. Otherwise, you can't chill with us. So if you have any opinions throughout the show, again, we're just giving each other's thoughts of whatever it is that we think about what's best about soccer or whatever. So nobody's going to be right or wrong here. And we'll welcome you guys to put anything you want on our chat on YouTube. And thanks for being with us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's it's been a long while. It's been a minute. We did a show in Spanish on Tuesday, like the normal time that we usually do at 7:30. For those of you who haven't joined us yet, Tuesdays at 7:30 Spanish show. We might get back to doing an English version, but we're still in the works with that. Fidel, you weren't here on Tuesday, man. Is there anything you want to talk to us about? How's everything? Before we get on,
everything's good. I mean, as you guys know, I'm also a high school coach, and sometimes or most of the times my games are on Tuesdays. But you guys took care of business, man, and I got to see the show a little after my game, and it felt good, man. It felt good to see you guys back. It felt good to start the new year off with season 3 of La Banca Podcast, as you guys know. And so, I mean, we got so much content. I'm not gonna be with you guys for the next 2 weeks, but these guys are gonna take care of you guys. Although that's going to be in Spanish, but in English, Mark runs the show, so we're still going to be present. Let's see what's up.
Yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, so let's get to the main thing in hand. Obviously, it's a busy time in Europe. It's a little bit different. We just finished last month with the World Cup and all that good stuff. A lot of excitement, a lot of joy, a lot of passion, during the holiday season for us, which is something that we usually don't have because, as we all know, the World Cup is usually during the summertime. And the crazy thing about it is, that World Cup inflation comes up. After every World Cup, there's certain players that do a lot better than what we thought they would. They show out. They play for smaller European clubs or they play for smaller domestic clubs in their league, and they show out. And obviously the prices go up for those players. And the funny thing is, we have a lot of players like that just had a great World Cup, had a great showing for their countries, and they're having a great showing for their respective clubs. And as soon as the World Cup finished, we're into the winter transfer window. So the big clubs have the opportunity to buy these players right now if they want to, which makes it very exciting for myself, who's a supporter of Barcelona, Arsenal, stuff like that. I know Little's excited because he's a Madrid fan. Who knows what they're gonna do. Fidel,
I'm dying.
His team is Chelsea's just gonna buy a whole brand new team. It's just gonna be a brand new team of new players, but we'll see. But that's exciting.
We're gonna turn Chelsea into a baseball team in the Premier League, pretty much.
From Los Angeles.
It's exciting, man. It's exciting. But let's get to some of these confirmed deals that have happened already. Let's start with Cody Gakpo going to Liverpool from PSV for 37 million and up expected to be maxed out at 50 million. This is a player who we're talking about as far as who had a great showing in the World Cup. 4 games, 3 goals. Was very exciting, very attack-minded player, a very young player. And there was a lot of hype about him before the World Cup. And, to be honest, man, I'm surprised that he went for so cheap. I thought 50 million was going to be the minimum that he was going to go for, and he ended up going. And 50 million is actually the maximum that Liverpool is going to pay. I don't know what Liverpool did. I don't know who they got naked pictures of over there, but they did something, man, because they pulled off a coup. That kid is 22 years old, already playing at a high level, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do alongside Darwin Nunez and Mohamed Salah, and and all those guys over there in Liverpool. Little, what's your opinion? I mean, I know you watched the World Cup, and I know you're familiar with Gakpo and stuff like that. So what's your thoughts on Cody Gakpo?
Well, I mean, in my personal opinion, I hope I don't bother nobody in this table, but the winter opening just for desperate teams that they're doing really bad in the league, and they need a solution like this. They need a solution that fast. So they can look out, and the coincidence is that this winter transfer happened after the World Cup, which is a great viewing for team, a great viewing the players can stand, so the teams can see him. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I was surprised too when he went for I thought at least minimum 50. I mean, but as we all know, Liverpool hasn't been doing good in the Premier League, and he qualified second place in the Champions League. So he's been having injuries back and forward. So Gakpo, I mean, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good buying for Liverpool. So I mean, it's pretty good for Liverpool. I mean, if they think they're gonna, which I think they will in the future, but it's too soon right now with all these injuries. But it's a pretty good buying for Liverpool.
I mean, Liverpool
get used to him, right?
Yeah, for sure. Liverpool the last 5 years has done really well. I mean, obviously they've won Champions League, they've won the Premier League, they've won a couple of domestic cups, stuff like that. But like you said,
pretty good scouts lately.
They have really good scouts, and they have a lot of injuries going on right now. Luis Diaz is out, Dogo Jota is out. Firmino, he's there, but they're going with Nunez, and Nunez right now can't score a goal for worth a lick. So it's a lot of things going on with Liverpool. Hopefully our friend Totti joins in the chat later on, and then he can let us know what's going on with Liverpool, because he's a big
he's over there crying, saving his tears, bro. Look, let me say something about Gakpo. Gakpo, well, first of all, let me read. We already have people on YouTube. So Samaria Campos says, Cody hasn't done enough to merit more yet, and the project and Klopp is what is really, Klopp telling you what's ahead in the future. And besides, the team that he can get more playing time is really pretty much Liverpool. And at the same time, be able to play big trophies, right? Be able to compete at the highest level, Champions League, first, second, third, fourth place in the Premier League, and so forth, right? So this is where he saw there was an opportunity, but an opportunity to expose himself to the highest level. Somebody also says Little has spoken out of turn, because as well as we know, Madrid is going to make a move this transfer window. And of course, we're aware Madrid is hurting right now. And yes, you're right. They are going to make some moves. They're going to have to make some moves, because eventually, things aren't looking that great, right? But going back to Gakpo, I just think that for some reason, players from Netherlands or Holland, however you want to call it, Países, in Spanish is Países Bajos, they don't get values that high, man. And this kid has qualities. We saw him in the World Cup, and we've seen him, and it's always going to be Ajax, it's always going to be PSV that are going to be the ones who are going to be producing all this talent and selling it, because that's what really they depend on, right? On building talent and selling talent. That's what they're known for, right? But at the same time, it's like some of these players don't go for that high, and it's because either they sell them too early, or it's because I don't know if it's because people believe that the Netherlands league is not up to that level, that anybody and just about anybody can do really well there. So they don't really know or are confident enough to know that if they're going to do really well in competitive leagues, especially the way the Premier League is, because that's the highest level you can play. For me personally, Premier League is the best league there is. So going from the Netherlands all the way to the Premier League, that's a big jump, huge jump. So it's a big risk.
But a lot of those players, especially the ones that you're talking about coming out of Holland and the Netherlands and smaller European leagues, I guess, those are their academy players. They're building them up. They're getting their homegrown players. They're getting them from their backyards, and they're not costing them anything realistically. Like you see, obviously we know the big clubs, they buy them and they got the money to spend. But
it's a farm system. Netherlands, PSV, and Ajax, it's a farm system.
For sure. But obviously they can afford to sell them at a more reasonable rate, because they didn't have to pay anything for them. Like they didn't have to go to buy them from Argentina or from Mexico or from another club. They build that player within, so they have the purpose and the wit to sell them at a reasonable rate. I think because at the end of the day, they're making basically almost 100% profit back off of this player once they sell them. So, but let's move on to another player, man. This one was a bit of a surprise. This one came out yesterday. This deal was initially a loan with an obligation to buy or an option to buy, if I'm not mistaken, between Wolverhampton Wolves and Atletico Madrid regarding the center forward Matheus Cunha. They watched him play 3 games. He has 1 assist and a goal, I believe. And Wolves said, "I've seen enough. We're gonna pay the 50 million." And they pay 50 million for Atletico Madrid. So it's been a pretty good week for Atletico Madrid as far as money coming into the club. For the time that he was there with Atletico, he didn't really do too much. He was basically second team behind Griezmann and behind Morata and Felix and those offensive players in Atletico. And it's kind of hard being a backup offensive player in Atletico when Atletico is a defensive minded team first. Fidel, I ask you, man, what are your thoughts? 50 million for a Brazilian national team player, but he's not Firmino, he's not Gabriel Jesus, he's not Richarlison. He's he's young, he's up and coming. He has the skill. Does he just need an opportunity? And maybe this is the opportunity. He's gonna merit those 50 million that they spent on him.
I just don't know where the logic is, because here's the thing. I get it. The kid might explode as long as he gets an opportunity. He's overshadowing all these players at Atletico or whatever. But man, 50 million just looks like desperation for Wolves, and in order for them not to relegate, and then again, he has to get adapted to the style of the Premier League. So if I were you, Wolves, I will invest in second division teams or in championship league teams that have great players, and maybe buy yourself 2 great forwards from the championship and bring them on, because those players are already familiar with the game. They already know what it takes to be in the Premier League. And now you're bringing in this Brazilian who's been in the shadows of great players, of course. Yeah. But you never know. Of course, you never know. But I think there's got to be some other way or system of fixing or spending 50 million in a better way or more productive way. I'm not taking nothing away from the kid. I think he deserves an opportunity just like any great player. But at the same time, I mean, La Liga is not the same as Premier League games. It's completely different. So I don't know who's scouting these kids. I don't know who's giving the advices. But at the end of the day, I think Wolves is just desperate. They're desperate to get somebody and hope that kid becomes the miracle kid,
Yeah, well, the Wolves are the Portuguese team of the Premier League. They have a special partnership with one of the big super agents, and I think it's George Mendes that is the agent that has a connection with the Wolves owner, who brings him in his players and clients, and look, Wolves has a really good squad. Little man, though, I'm gonna ask you, obviously, Wolves are battling relegation. The last couple of years, they've been really good. They've been a mid-table to a upper mid-table team. They're qualifying for Europa League and things like that. So they've been doing really well. This season, for some reason, they haven't hit with as far as a goal scorer. They have no goal scorer. Raul Jimenez is not, after the head injury, he hasn't been the same. They brought in old man Diego Costa. Diego Costa hasn't done anything.
They brought him back to life.
Yeah, Gonzalo Guedes has been injured, so I mean he hasn't done anything. So this obviously smells as desperation move on Wolves' end, but I mean, like I said, 50 million, that's a lot, man.
Well, you'd be surprised how much money the Premier teams have now these days. Back then, like about 10 years ago, they were kind of working with a budget. Let me just real quickly. Let me tell Samir Campos that Real Madrid is thinking about making a signing this winter, summer, and I'll let you know later on which one's going to be. But Matheus Cunha, his father, I don't know what's going on with Atletico Madrid, but eventually I know what's going on with Atletico Madrid. I know what's going on with Diego Simeone, but it's kind of hard as a forward to be in Atletico de Madrid. It's hard. Yeah. It's just like his forwards are leaving. His forwards don't want to. It's kind of hard to succeed in the system of Cholo Simeone. And that was one of the words of the father of Matheus Cunha, which is representative. He said it's very complicated to succeed in Diego Simeone's system as a forward because he's very defensive. Mm-hmm. You know, as a forward, you have to defend too. So it is, right. Sincerely, your job as a forward to score goals, right? No, in Diego Simeone's system, you got to score goals and defend at the same time, which is kind of impossible. And of course, it's a very desperate move from Wolves. But like I said, it's this winter open is just it's fast solution. Whatever can give you, hopefully it works. And if it works, you're a genius. Or if not, well, there's always summer, so you can sell them. I think I'm same as Fidel's page. I think the Premier League it's kind of fast and it's kind of complicated to begin to score goals, but he's a Brazilian. They were made for these challenges. So as the Argentinian people, soccer players.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they're all these clubs are fine to stay up because the Premier League money is huge money. You know, especially if you stay up in the Premier League. Once you go down to Championship, you lose a lot of money. So I mean, obviously they're investing in the fact that you know Cunha is going to help score goals and create opportunities and start winning some of these games because yeah, it's not looking good for them right now. But yeah, let's move on from them. Sticking with Atletico Madrid, they just made one of their big signings from a couple of years ago. Their largest signing, their club record signing from a couple of years ago. A young teenager, Portuguese, the heir apparent of Cristiano Ronaldo, apparently signed with Atletico Madrid a couple of years back, and now he's been sent on loan to Chelsea for $11 million, $11 million loan, and they're going to cover the full salary for Joao Felix. Fidel, I'll ask you because this is your squad. You know, I know you're a Chelsea dude to the heart, but you know, and we're not going to talk about the game yet, about what happened today with this and that. This is prior to that. I know what happened with the red card and all that stuff. It just adds salt to the wound.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk. about
it. Definitely, Mark. I mean, this is.
But I mean, what do you think? I mean, Little just mentioned it with Cunha being a forward in Atletico Madrid is a difficult thing to do. Even with all the talent that Joao Felix has, all the natural talent and all the natural skills that he possesses, you know, Diego Simeone is hampering his ability to grow. And this is the club record. This is your club record signing, $126 million that Atletico spent sent to Benfica to buy him, and you're not letting him do what he does best. What are your thoughts on the type of player that you might be getting at Chelsea if you allow him to do what he does?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of rumors out there that Simeone is leaving Atletico, right? Which I think to a certain extent, I don't think it's good for Atletico because I don't know another coach that will keep him up there fighting for third or fourth place, right? Because that's what they really fight for, right? At the end of the day, I think any player now that is considering to go to Atletico will probably just go to Atletico because of the money. But do they really want to go to Atletico? I don't think so. I mean, just Simeone has just killed so many players' reputations as far as how they are to perform or how they are to grow as a player and to just overcome so many things, right? And so I think his system is already dying, right? So players got to choose or really think about their choice if they're thinking about going to Atletico. Secondly, when it comes to my Chelsea, it all started with Tuchel. I think it all started with this new owner. I don't know what it is, man. I don't think the American owners come into play or come into this business of soccer with the right mentorship or the right guidance, right? Oh yeah, or mindset, because they come in here thinking like this is America, and it's not. You know, it's a different monster. It's a different sport, you know, and so that's what kills the sport as well. And we've seen it. We've seen it throughout. I mean, statistically, it has shown with many other clubs, you know. But again, it's money, right? It comes down to money. Here's my question: why bring Joao to Chelsea? And answer this question for me. Who's that kid that hit the hat trick for Portugal when Cristiano was on the bench?
Ramos.
So why not bring Ramos in? Right? Tell me, why not bring Ramos in and instead you're going looking for a kid who you still don't know his potential?
Well,
Because
let me ask you
Joao
this
Felix
question.
has Mendes as
Joao
a
Felix was-
representative, Fidel. He
Well,
must
let me-
have
let-
more than anybody else.
Well, let me ask you this
But what I'm
question.
saying is, what I'm saying is Joao Felix in Atletico Madrid hasn't been anything other than what he was back in Portugal. That's it.
He's a
He hasn't
promise and
shown
never deliver.
anything. That's
Yeah.
and exactly. And a lot of people are blaming El Cholo Simeone about it. A lot of people are blaming the coach. But I mean, come on, you yourself, you got to show something for
Yeah,
yourself.
look,
I mean,
you have to understand. They have to understand one thing. There's only been 12 players who've merited $100 million transfer fee, and he's one of them, right? When you say $100 million player, there's a lot of weight that comes with that. There's a lot of pressure because you can't if I'm spending $100 million on a player, Mbappe, Neymar, Dembele, Griezmann, Felix. Those players, I need that player to hit the ground running from the get-go. There can't be no, oh, he needs to get accustomed, he needs to do this. No. Yeah, I paid this amount because
I'm sorry, Mark, but the decision for Joao Felix to come to Atletico Madrid, first of all, was ridiculous. It was dumb. Okay? Because you know how Cholo Simeone plays. He's very defensive. And you're seeing a young guy as a goal scorer, as a forward, to come to provide that for the team, it's going to be hard. It's too much weight. If it's too much weight for a guy that has already the experience on the big leagues, what do you think is going to have the weight on a guy that has that he hasn't had that experience on?
Let me go to the chat. Let me go to the chat real quick. So Night 77 Night, what's up, man? How you doing? He's a huge Atletico Madrid fan. I feel like the hate on Cholo is very biased. Many attackers have succeeded under him. Forlan, Grisi, Costa, Falcao, to name a few. Felix has his own problems as a player. So did Cunha. And it's true. Like,
he's right. He's right. But on the long term, right?
The reason
at the beginning, I'm sorry. I'm cutting you off, but I just want to clarify something. At the beginning, Cholo's theory was amazing.
Yeah.
And I even thought to a point that if Cholo ever left, Atletico Madrid was going to go down. But, coaches got to grow and they got to expand and they got to change their styles as the game progresses, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's Cholo's problem, that he's kept it like that. He's been loyal to this game for years. And so other coaches are going to study you. And that's what's happened to Pep Guardiola. So many people have studied Pep that's why Pep hasn't won a Champions League. Yeah. At least I believe so, right? So I think that's the reason why, it's just Cholo's so defensive. And if you're an offensive player, forget it, bro. Forget it. But he's right. He's completely right.
No, don't get me wrong. Obviously under Cholo Simeone, this is the most successful tenure of Atletico Madrid in their history.
He made Atletico de Madrid grow up.
Yeah,
exactly. Right.
He took Atletico Madrid from being a little brother to actually being right there in the table with Real Madrid and Barcelona. And obviously he's had a lot of success. He's had like Knight mentioned on the chat. There's been a lot of successful attacking players: Forlan, Torres, Kun Agüero, Falcao. There's been a lot of successful. There's been a lot of successful strikers. Luis Suarez for the year that he came in. Won La Liga with those guys.
Right.
But it's. I agree with what he's saying as far as there's been successful fours. And I also agree with what Fidel's saying as well, where Simeone, he has to evolve a little bit because the modern football style now is that it's more offensive minded. You have people who want to play and score goals and play that attractive style. And Simeone, I feel like he needs an assistant who can help him with that offensively because as a defensive coach, he's a genius. He does. Some people might look at stuff and they might make jokes about having his formation being a 5-5-0, whatever, and doing stupid things like that, right? But at the end of the day, he gets results when he needs them, and sometimes he makes huge upsets in Champions League level, and things like that.
Lately, that hasn't happened. There's a point. I mean, I totally agree with you and Fidel that, of course, when he came in, Atletico Madrid was was another team in Spain. And when he came, it became a good team in Europe, playing Europe competitions, and lately making big signings. He just ran out of ideas lately. He just doesn't have the power no more to sustain a club no more. He's out of ideas. He's washed off, and there's no secret about it. He's leaving next summer, and just to prove that, Joao Felix, before he left, he signed for 1 more year for Atletico Madrid. So it was just like, look, you're not getting along with Simeone. We're gonna loan you off, but then you're coming back, and then you're gonna be here because Cholo Simeone is not gonna be here for next season. It's just,
Yeah.
But just like Fidel said, it's kind of complicated to defend Joao Felix when he goes to Chelsea. He goes, I like to play soccer. I feel happy when I have the ball. So first game gets kicked out. Come on, guy.
Okay.
So whose problem is this now? So now we have doubts. Is it Cholo Simeone's problem? Is it Joao Felix's problem? Whose problem is it now?
No, I mean, look, I mean, obviously
I'm asking you this question.
It doesn't help his cause, obviously.
Now?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and it doesn't help his cause either. Obviously, what happens today in this game, in his debut with Chelsea. But let's move on before we move on to the next topic, because we're not trying to be here that long on this show. It's kind of just go over what's going on with the winter transfer window. But let me go back to the chat real quick, because Knight, like I said, he's a passionate Atletico fan. And the next time, in the next segment, we're gonna start off with Atletico as well, because there's something going on with them as well. But he says, I feel like Cholo has opened up his style a lot, especially in the 2020 season. No one ever talks about that. One of the things that has killed our team was the loss of Kieran Trippier going to Newcastle last year.
It's true. It's true.
We were a lot more attacking in that season. We won the league, especially in the first half of the season. He goes on to say, I do feel like Cholo does has to take the blame as a coach, but it shouldn't be all on him. Sama says Felix was not a good fit for them stylistically, and he went because they thought he could be a star on a team without a true star. He was scared to go to Barcelona or Real Madrid and learn to swing with the big boys. Like I said, look, Atletico Madrid had the money because Barcelona bought Griezmann from them, and they basically just took that money and gave it to Benfica to get Joao Felix, who they were hoping was going to be their next younger Antoine Griezmann. But it didn't work out. It didn't work out for Barcelona. It didn't work out for Atletico Madrid. At the end of the day, everybody got pie in their face except for Benfica, who collected all that money. Let's go to the next topic, man. Rumors, man. Obviously, not too many confirmed deals as far as those three that we talked about, but there's a lot of rumors swirling, and a lot of players, a lot of huge footballers out there with a lot of decisions to make, in these next couple of weeks, of whether or not they're going to stay with their current club, or if they're going to head out. And obviously, the big names out there like Memphis Depay, Joao Cancelo, are being hunted down by multiple clubs. But let's keep it with Atletico, since Knight is on here right now, and I feel like he's very engaged on the chat with this. But Atletico obviously just loaned it out Joao Felix. They just sold Matheus Cunha, so they're a little bit light on the forward side. And look, they're going back to their old rival / partner, I guess now, going back to Barcelona to go get a forward from them, or trying to, and going after Memphis Depay. Your thoughts on Memphis? I mean, Memphis did really well for them their first year, before, Aubameyang came last year and all that stuff. But he was a top scorer last year in Barcelona at part-time, for some reason. Xavi, obviously, with the investment of bringing Lewandowski, and Lewandowski is going to play the whole game. So obviously there's no room for Memphis there anymore.
Let me ask you something, though, before you say something else. Ever since Xavi came in, Memphis, okay, before Xavi came in, obviously Memphis was like the star, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the coach, right? And then when Xavi came in, it's like, forget it. It's like there seems to be so much favoritism in Barcelona. No, man. There seems to be so much. I mean, even if you ask me, Aubameyang should have never left Barcelona.
And we'll get to Aubameyang here in a bit.
And that's what I'm saying. So it's like, don't you think they're hurting a lot of these players? I mean, they're hurting their careers too. It's like them themselves in Barcelona are lowering the stakes or the strength or the capacity or the level that these players really are in. Because if you tell me Memphis Depay will be a starter in any team, even in Barcelona, and I just don't understand.
Yeah, the versatility that he has as far as being a center forward and playing the wings, and sometimes even playing the midfield. You wonder why he can't get any minutes. But like I said, there's sometimes it has to do with favoritism of the coach, and coaches have preference of style. And obviously, the coach before Ronald Koeman, him being from the Netherlands, and Memphis Depay being from the Netherlands, so the connection there. But let's go back to this. So. Memphis Depay to Atletico Madrid. If that were to happen, like how many times is Barcelona going to help Atletico? How many times is Barcelona going to send their players over to one of their main rivals? I mean, this is kind of like one of those things where it's fun. It's funny because like,
and then Atletico's going to win the Liga, right?
It's funny because we Barcelona sends a forward over there, and these guys win the league. And it's I mean, why do you keep helping these guys out like that? But like I said, Memphis has a lot of skills and a lot of talent, and I think he can help, and I think he is a worker when he gets on the pitch. But
if somebody's trash going towards somebody else's,
one person's trash is another person's goals. I guess. I mean, this is true, but yeah, man. I mean, Memphis Depay, the Atletico. Do you think is a good plan for them?
I'll tell you this, and I'm gonna be honest with you. When you play the system of Cholo Simeone, you better have some really fast forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is the reason why Simeone's system hasn't been working lately. Because when it was working, it's because he has some really good forwards. He's very defensively, and he gets you on a counter. And the only way you can beat teams on a counter is if you have the Mbappes, the Memphis Depays, the Dembélés, the Hazards, the fast players, right? The players that can sit back, half field, and once the ball is won, we push forward and we don't stop and we run like gazelles, right? And that's effective. And I think Memphis Depay is the type of player that he's capable to play that type of game. So for me, he's a great fit. I don't think you give me anybody like this or you give me anybody, and they just don't work for that system. But how does Griezmann work for that system? If you play a 4-3-3 and Griezmann is playing 9, and you have two guys on the side that penetrate and Griezmann comes in and finishes. But I think Memphis will really run that line. And I think he's going to be very effective if he does get to go to Atletico. That's just my take on it.
Little. Let me ask you something. And I like that he brought up Griezmann. I like we mentioned in the beginning of the show. We just had the World Cup last month, and we saw how effective Griezmann was in France. Being
in a different position,
being the playmaker. Yeah, being the playmaker. Here at Atletico, he's playing not the 9 role, but he's playing the second striker role. And
libero.
I mean. You as a coach, I mean, you see your player playing really at a high level in one position, and you put him out of position in your level. When do you get to a point where you're like, hey, maybe I should try this out?
I mean, to be honest,
or is he just so stuck in his ways?
He's a very stubborn guy, man. And to be honest, man, I think. I mean, I agree with Cunha's dad. It's kind of harder for forward to succeed. I mean, every forward he has been with them has led the team. Morata wasn't Cholo's team, and he left and came back, and they wanted him to leave, and they end up saying, no, we cannot kick them out, or we cannot sell him because who are you going to have as a forward?
Yeah.
I mean, his system is just so defensive. Like I said, to be a forward, you have to defend too, which is kind of impossible. I mean, you can't be in the, next forward cannot be next to his goalkeeper defending. No, he has to be in the front next to the opponent's goalkeeper. It's just very, very complicated for a forward to make it. Memphis Depay came as for Koeman when Koeman was in Barcelona, came as a forward. And when Xavi came, he just disappeared him. He was not that. He ended up sticking to his ways. He was not the forward that he was looking for, and he's still.
But he was injured, right?
I mean, what is he?
Wasn't he injured
30?
when Xavi got there? I think he was injured when Xavi got
there.
Yeah,
he had an injury. That's why.
He got injured in the first games when Xavi got there. But
that's why they went to go get a Aubameyang.
And then he and Barcelona ended up sending Aubameyang because he didn't fit in the system. And Aubameyang is a pretty good player for me. But just like I said, I mean, I find it very complicated for a forward to succeed in Cholo Simeone's system. But hopefully he does, because he's a great player. He deserves a lot better chances to play or more minutes to play. So I mean, hopefully,
he should go to Madrid.
You know what? He should go to Arsenal. Arsenal.
Come on, man. Chelsea. Chelsea should have taken the pie. Chelsea had a better bet with the pie than Felix. For real. Let's talk about it.
Chelsea's gonna play. Chelsea's gonna play a 2-9, 2 defenders in the back, and all nine forwards playing up front. Speaking of Aubameyang, you know, because his name's been brought up a lot. Rumor has it that he wants to leave Chelsea. Chelsea has not been as great of a match for him as he thought it was going to be. And unfortunately for him, under FIFA rules, you can't go past more than 2 clubs per calendar per season. And obviously he was at Barcelona when he started the season, and he ended up with Chelsea. So technically, and I'm not sure, I got to research this, the only club that can get him back is Barcelona, which Barcelona has came out and said, hey, if we sell Memphis, we'll take Aubameyang back on free. We're not gonna pay anything back. If Chelsea wants to give him back to us free, we'll take him. You know,
so why not get 1 for 1? Why not give the pie to Chelsea and get Aubameyang back? Why not?
Because you're losing value there. Because Atletico is gonna pay a fee. Whatever club that gets him is gonna pay a fee. You know,
Chelsea's got money, bro. Chelsea has money.
But
Chelsea has money.
But no, but
has money. Barcelona has money.
That's fine. But I mean, look, man, we'll get back to Aubameyang right now. But like Chelsea, you have Kai Havertz, you have Pulisic, you have Mason Mount, you have Saric, you have CH, you have I know Sterling, you know, like
Pulisic.
Pulisic,
Joao Felix. What's going on, bro?
How many players do you need? Aubameyang, you have Aubameyang. How many offensive players do you need?
Oh my God, that is ridiculous. You know what?
I'm like an Arsenal player.
I had not thought about this, and now that you mentioned all this, I'm like, what the hell's going on? How come the Wolves didn't approach Chelsea, bro? Tell me.
You know,
tell me, literally.
One of the guys. But yeah, man. I mean, so I'm a Barcelona fan. Everybody knows that. I would not be opposed to having Aubameyang back in Barcelona because, like I've mentioned prior, I think the connection with him and Dembele last year was phenomenal. You know,
I think he wants to go back after that attack he had?
After the what?
What attack? He's
not.
That has nothing to do with the sport.
That happens everywhere.
Come on, man. You got beat up at your own house. You got robbed.
That happens.
It has nothing to do with the sport, though.
No. The way that happened to him is not. It doesn't happen very often, guys. Come on, man. That's a psychological. That's a very hard psychological problem right there, dude. Come on, man. You can't say. Hey, you cannot say it was pretty. Hey, guys, we cannot say that it was like, nothing happened. Dude, that guy got beat up.
We can't say that either, but I mean, what I'm saying is, look, he lives in London right now, right? But he's in Chelsea. He was an Arsenal player. He was quote unquote almost borderline an Arsenal legend, you know, for all that he did with Arsenal. And then he goes over to Chelsea, who's a main rival. You don't think people who are stupid out there, who live in London, would want to go attack him if they see him in London? That happens. That can happen anywhere, you know.
Hey, you only betray the colors for a better club. That's the truth. You betray the colors for a better club.
With that being said, I mean, Aubameyang is not enjoying his time in Chelsea like he.
It is not that, Mark. He's not getting an opportunity, man.
Yeah, he's not getting.
This coach needs time. He needs time. He needs to recover all these injured players, and then he can start a rotation with all these forwards. Really, that's what he's gonna get to. But it's just been bad decision making. Look, Sterling should have never came to Chelsea. First of all,
never.
Pulisic is always injured. Mm-hmm. Felix shouldn't even been transferred. I mean, they should have just.
You were supposed to go to Arsenal.
Maybe the problem, Fidel. Maybe it's not the coach. Maybe it's your owner.
No, yeah, exactly.
You should listen to Tuchel, and none of this would have happened.
But you can.
Tuchel had pretty good control.
There's nothing hiding this. It's the plain truth.
But you can't fire the owner.
Regardless,
I know that. Exactly, I know that. But If he would have
But
listened
he's
to
gonna make
Tuchel,
Chelsea
none of this would have happened
the
right
worst
now.
team. Man, with this owner, I wouldn't even be surprised if we relegate, bro. Seriously, it's been so many bad choices, and then you don't see this, until people that come into the system that don't know the system start making decisions. I mean, and it all started with Tuchel. Tuchel should have never been let go. You can't come to a coach who's been
You would have
one
listened
of
to
the
him in the
top
summer transfers.
coaches, one of the top coaches in Europe, period. And then you tell him and you put restrictions and you tell him how you want things done. You don't do that. You just come to this coach and you tell him, how can I support you? How can I give you with my money the best that you want? That's what you do. You don't come in and say, okay, look, we're going to do this and this because I got to get my $4.5 billion back some way, somehow. No, you already lost your $4.5 billion. When people invest money, that money is already gone. It's invested. It's done. Don't think about winning it back. Yes, that's the plan, but it's not about getting it back in 2-3 years. You're going to get it back in 10, 15, maybe 20 years. And that's if, right? So Tuchel should have been a form of support. And then when Tuchel realized that this wasn't the right way to go, he knew he had to put his foot down, and that's why he got cut. That's why they sacked him. At the end of the day, it's the owner, and that's what's hurting Chelsea, period.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. I mean, you have Tuchel who came in and won you the Champions League, the Club World Cup. He came in out of nowhere. Obviously he had a bad spell with PSG, and he lifted y'all season up. I mean, he lifted that 2021 season up for y'all for sure. But I don't want to get too much into the owner. Obviously, like I said, the owner it is what it is with him, and and unfortunately, he's a first time into the soccer thing. He was a baseball minority owner before, so maybe he still has that baseball mentality in him. But let's talk about a couple other rumors, man. Joao Cancelo. Some arguably think he's the best left back in the world at this moment. There's others up there that whatever, but Pep Guardiola, obviously has a lot of players to his disposal, and a young player that came out of the City Academy named Rico Lewis is actually pushing, and he's been starting the last couple of games for Pep Guardiola over Consuelo at City. And obviously, like we mentioned before, bringing up an academy player is way more beneficial than having a player brought in from another area because you got to pay. And then on top of that, if you have quote unquote the best player of that position in this moment, you can make a lot of money off of him. Joe Consuelo, I would love him on any one of my teams. I like the way the guy plays. I like his defense. I like his attack. He's very attack minded for a left back. I think he plays the game a lot in the way that I like the game being played. As far as being like a wing back, a hybrid or whatever. But would you want him on your squad, Fidel? Let's say for Chelsea. I mean, obviously you have all the money in the world, so
why not fill out my defense line, right?
Right.
Let me read this real quick. Juan Martinez is on the chat and he said Cancelo's an average defender. It really falls into that, really. It truly, really goes down to that. And then you look at the stats and then you look at Man City and the way they're doing things. Man City is doing things pretty interesting. They're even pulling players into their academy, growing on them really quick. I think they're farming some kind of Barcelona ideology here. I don't know.
They're not spending as much money as you think they are anymore.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Because if you look at the youth, if you look at the youth, 2 years ago. But if you look at the youth academy for Man City, they're some of the top prospects in European football. Period. Like crazy, right? As far as the names and everybody that's there, really. If they're gonna get an opportunity, I don't know. Are they doing this so that they can sell players? I believe so. If they're not going to get an opportunity in the first squad, they're probably just going to sell them and just get money out of them and basically just be that system, right? But back to Cancelo, I mean, I think Cancelo's still a great player. But I think to a certain extent, City's got to move on. And it's doing it with so many players. Gundogan is doing it with, it's going to eventually do it with, what's his name? The center midfielder, the small one. Silva, of course. They're going to do it with all these players. And so Pep is interesting that Pep does this. He tries players to see if they fit well. And if they do, he keeps them there because they have to grow. And so that's how he saves money for City. And don't take me wrong, Cancelo's hell of a player still, right? Wherever he goes, whether he goes to Chelsea or anywhere else, he's going to be great. But this is the project the city has. And I think because Pep plays this role and he can sell at the end of the year, Pep is going to come in and say, okay, yes, you can sell this one. Yes, you can sell that one, but not this one. You know what I mean, right? He's going to build players. He's going to grow players, and he's going to make them, I don't know, ridiculous good or whatever the case may be, to the point to where he's going to have access and say which ones he can let go and which ones he can't. Because it's going to get to a point to where City's going to be like this with money and say, hey, look, listen, have you developed anybody? Because we're against the wall here. We're spending so much money. And I think this is why Pep is working this system, because it's the only way to stay alive in European football.
It's what you mentioned earlier with your current Chelsea boss, where obviously he's spending the money out the ass right now because he's trying to build whatever his vision of the soccer team is. Right when Man City's first got taken over by the Saudis, they spend money. They spend a lot of money. We were like, everybody's like, where's the financial fair play? They're spending so much money. They brought in Cunha, they brought in Robinho, Carlos Tevez. They're bringing in big stars. That was the first 10 years. Now, the next 10 years, they slowed that down. They focus a lot on the development. Obviously, Phil Foden, Sergio Rico, like I mentioned earlier, other kids as well. Like I can't remember top of my head, but like you start seeing them. They're selling out players, selling them out, and bringing in new younger players, and making good deals, making great deals for them. But
I just want to know when Madrid is going to develop any players, because the last time I heard they played some kind of game out there with not one national team player or not one nationalized Spaniard starter in the squad. So I just really want to know that. I mean, what are they hiding under the sleeves? Do they have $1 billion budget to spend for next year, Little man?
Would you want Consuelo on your team?
Real Madrid is already thinking about Joao Felix. Joao Cancelo. How did Joao Cancelo? Was he 29, 30?
No, he's 27.
Okay, well,
he's at his prime.
He's at his prime.
So Real Madrid is already thinking about Joao Cancelo since the beginning of the summer. Forlan Mendy, he doesn't attack, he doesn't defend, and he wants more money. And Real Madrid is not really keeping up with that. I think you've seen him play La Copa del Rey. He hardly even does anything against Villarreal. He was a horrible defender. He's been defending horrible. So Real Madrid, he already been thinking about Joao Cancelo. Real Madrid is thinking about if in the summer transfer. I was just going to answer to Summer Campos. Fran Garcia, he's starting Real Madrid. Then he got traded to Rayo Vallecano, which he's playing right now. He's thinking about getting that left defender because, like I said, Ferland Mendy is not doing very well. And of course, for the next transfer, they're thinking about Joao Cancelo. If not Joao Cancelo, they're thinking about Alphonso Davies from Bayern Munich. But Joao Cancelo, it's in the eye of Real Madrid to sign him maybe next summer.
So we'll see if Florentino. I know Florentino doesn't really do anything in January, but obviously they're in the middle of a fight to win the league with Barcelona. They're obviously in their Champions League knockout stage. I think who they have Liverpool coming up, and obviously they have Copa del Rey and the Clásico this Sunday. But yeah, so obviously there's a lot of rumors, and we can spend a lot of time about the rumors. But man, let's talk about a couple of players, man, real quick. And let's focus on the midfield position real quick, because the midfield position has been a very interesting position as of late, especially with the young youth players. And let's talk about three midfielders that have been in the news and in the rumor circles a lot for like a couple of years. And let's start with the first one. Jude Bellingham, English player who started out in Birmingham City, got transferred to Borussia Dortmund, where he's at right now, and he's rumored to be one of those $100 million players soon to be. We'll see if anybody ends up paying that. Rumors are Liverpool, Man City, and little man's Real Madrid. Little,
Chelsea.
I'll start with you because obviously, I know he's a player that you're excited about, and you hope that he gets to wear the white shirt of Real Madrid. What do you think the chances are realistically that $100 million for Jude Bellingham to Madrid? How realistic is that?
Well, I've been reading about it and hearing about this guy. I mean, his mentality is terrific. I mean, this guy is 19 years old. His mentality is like the 27, 28-year-old guy. He's very, very, very focused on his future, on his
But the
system.
physical too.
He's pretty good. I mean, this guy's his mentality is like very uh focused on what he needs to do to succeed in this sport, to be as dedicated in the sport as you need to be. But it's all about who pays the most money. He was, first of all, he was what, 90 million, 80 million. Then all of a sudden he just jumped up into 120 million.
He had a
And
great World
with
Cup.
all this
He had a
Arabic,
good
or
World
I don't know
Cup.
how you call this owners, which Man City, Man City, big guys, they want to get all these new players, all these PSGs want to jump in there, and Real Madrid has a very tough competition with these guys. But it all ends up, if from what I heard, it all ends up that Madrid has a chance because he's a great friend with the owner of Borussia Dortmund. But it also has to combine with what Enzo has to do in that too, because Man City is looking forward to get Enzo or Jude Bellingham. He's looking at both of them, so it's all going to turn out up to see who can end up paying more for this guy, who can benefit more for the system. It's all going to end up fighting for Jude Bellingham or Enzo at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
for
So
sure.
where do you think Jude really wants to go though? I mean, he's English,
I
So
mean,
being
it's either
back home
go
is not a bad idea either. And at the
it's
same
either
time,
go it's either go home and get the money, or it's either get the money and play in the greatest club in the world.
it's like that. But let me tell you something, man.
You have a choice now, Fidel.
I when I was in Germany, I regret not putting my money on Borussia Dortmund, because I don't know if you know this, but the people in Borussia Dortmund, the fans are the owners of the club. They're the stakeholders of the club. It is run by the people in Borussia Dortmund. So, man, these guys are making talent and they're selling talent like crazy. Borussia Dortmund is known for selling some of the greatest talents in the world of European football. So it's crazy. And I understand this kid is amazing and he's going to be great. Let me say one interesting thing about being a true midfielder. Your peripheral vision is like this, but his and like the Iniestas and the Chavez is like that.
Yeah.
They literally see extra space, and that's how they're able to play the ball to places where normal people can't see. You see what I mean? And this kid has it. He has the touch, the control, the physicality, the speed. I mean, he has it all. He's going to be, whoever gets this kid is going to be blessed for the next decade or so.
For sure.
And I just hope they just load him with talent around him too as well.
Oh, for sure. And whichever one of those three clubs he joins, there's going to be a bunch of talent around them.
Chelsea.
But obviously, Little, you mentioned Enzo Fernandez as well, and Fidel. I'll ask you about him because Chelsea was supposedly going to pay the release clause, which was $126 million to Benfica. Man, Benfica is making money off of everybody. Man, Benfica is the one out there doing it. But
Moneymakers.
Supposedly it was misconstrued, and they were the talks were not. There was miscommunication, and Chelsea only wanted to pay about 80, 85 at the most. But they weren't going nowhere near the 126. But who knows? Like I said, Enzo Fernandez was the young player of the World Cup. So obviously, like I said, that World Cup inflation comes into play. He's 22 years old as well, so he's a young buck as well. And he's a World Cup champion. The same clubs, Liverpool has interest in them. We'll add Chelsea to this mix. Madrid, right. like Little said, and obviously Man City. But I'll ask you, Fidel, because obviously Chelsea was the one who's out here more aggressive at this point in time. What do you see Chelsea actually getting into? Maybe not in the winter, but let's say in the summer.
Look, let me say something. First of all, for Enzo, right? For Enzo, the biggest thing that actually pushed his price up was the World Cup. Period.
Yeah,
Right?
World Cup
That was the
inflation.
one thing, right? Secondly, and I hate to say this, truly enough, and I hate to say this, but we were playing the same novel that Real Madrid was playing with Mbappe. The same novel, like, oh, I really want you and I want to get you. But man, this price just went up to a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it was wrong from Chelsea, and the coach from Benfica said it. Hey, these guys are playing games. But at the same time, Benfica they didn't fold their hands. They said, hey, look, listen, this is the price. It's not negotiable.
Yeah.
And Chelsea thought it was negotiable. It wasn't.
Look,
and Chelsea said, meet me in the middle. There was no middle. Same thing with Mbappe. There was no middle with Mbappe. So at the end of the day, I mean, we can say so much about Enzo, but I mean, Chelsea said, okay, wait, man, things got complicated. We thought we could negotiate, but we're not going to. And that's when they just ended the whole novel thing. But at the end of the day, Enzo would fit really well in Chelsea's lineup, just like they would in Madrid or anywhere else. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, I think it was the wrong time to make a move for Enzo. I think it was.
No, I think so too.
The summertime would be best.
It's one of those things where, like you said, Chelsea went in thinking that there was wiggle room with the transfer fee. There isn't. Benfica is in no hurry to transfer. Benfica's in the middle of a title chase in their league. I think they're in second place right now behind Braga in the Portuguese league. So they're in no hurry. Look, they know they're gonna make money off of Enzo. They bought him off of Liverpool. They bought him off of Liverpool, I think, for 13 million. And you're talking about 126 million. Like,
wow.
Look how much profit, even if they go to, let's say 85, 90, or they do some wiggle room because, hey, they're going to keep investing into their system, and they're going to go find young players in South America or Europe, whatever, to bring them into Benfica and grow them and keep doing the same thing over and over again, right? But they're in no pressure to sell. They don't have to sell. So that's that. I think that's where Chelsea messed up, thinking that they had any kind of leverage to have them move off of that 126 million release clause. And Benfica said, no, we don't. I mean, if you're going to pay that, great. Send us the check and we'll send you Enzo. But if you're not going to pay that, there is no, hey, 85, 90. No, we're not going to talk that. We're in the middle of the season right now. We don't need to sell him. We want to celebrate him. He did a great job showcasing himself at the World Cup. He's a Benfica player. We want him. The coach said we want to keep him. He's a great player.
Let me say this. Juan Martinez says something really interesting. Teams have to be really smart going forward when buying young players. The time when teams bought young players guessing their future is over. No team can spend money to buy players to loan them. That's what it's about, man. See, it's hard now to just. It's even hard for me to believe this. Like 126 million. Nobody even mentioned those kind of numbers back in the days. And when I say back in the days, I'm saying like 3-4 years ago. Yeah. That's crazy. What have we gotten ourselves into? Is soccer really going to be in trouble in a good 4 or 5 years? Because it's going to hit some kind of inflation. FIFA's going to have to come in and put some kind of restrictions because this is ridiculous, guys. These numbers are just crazy.
But that's the way soccer's going, Fidel. I mean, there's no. This is the way the system has been since. Man, I remember, Fidel. I remember when Ronaldo, the phenomenon, got traded from PSG. I mean, from a PSV to Barcelona. It was 100 million? No, it was 90 million, something like that. And then you hear Alan Shearer from Southampton to Newcastle was 100 million a year. What? I mean, that was ridiculous. So this is compared nothing. But this is the way soccer is going. I don't know what's going to happen, but this needs to be a stop. And to be honest, these Benfica, Ajax, PSV, they're all not taking advantage, but they're being very smart at the time of buying players. When they can buy a small player like Enzo Fernandez, like a small player like for 20 million, like Mark just said, in 120 million, dude, that's what $100 million profit on that almost. You know what I'm saying? It's big time.
Yeah,
and they have done that since the last 5 years. They have been doing that. They had done it to Real Madrid. They had done it to Man City, to Liverpool. That's the way soccer's going. Now these days, you have to buy like players when they like. You have to have the vision to buy
and to develop
the future.
Yeah.
You have to take a bid on it. You go like, man, I bet on this guy. I think he can make it. Otherwise, it's gonna cost you a fortune later on in the future.
I mean, think about it, man. I mean, look, like I mentioned earlier in the show, there's 12 players in the history of soccer that have $100 million plus transfer fee tied up next to them. Of those 12 players, realistically, 2 of them have really lived up to the to that $100 million tag.
Jude,
Mbappe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Mbappe and Neymar. And you know that's it. And those two are like when you say Mbappe, when you say Neymar, when you say Mbappe, those are global superstars.
Right.
You know those are they're gonna change the culture of your club stars. That's not just and no disrespect to Enzo or to Jude Bellingham because they're gonna be great players, but those 2 players are not players that are gonna change the culture. They're gonna change. They're gonna bring in not just the on the pitch, but off the pitch, the marketing. They don't do the whole, you know, they're not marketable like that. So now when you see these numbers thrown around, especially for like midfield players, and Jude Bellingham and Enzo are more defensive midfielders than attacking midfielders, so they're not even involved in the attack like that, to where they're providing goals and assists and, you know, having a direct impact on the game as far as score lines go. That's where I worry sometimes about where soccer is going because of the money and the inflation and how much clubs are willing to spend. But then you see Man City. You know, Man City's doing the same thing with they might buy high sometimes. They might spend $100 million on Jack Grealish, which Jack Grealish is not worth $100 million, right? But look what they did. They spent $14 million to go buy Julian Alvarez from River Plate, and they can sell Julian Alvarez right now for that amount and make the money back from what they spend on Jack Grealish or Haaland. So they're doing it both ways. But the show's running kind of long. We got one more player to go to, so I want to get to this player because he's not going to be sold for that amount of money that we just talked about with Jude Bellingham and Enzo Fernandez. But he had a great World Cup, and we're talking about Brighton's Alexis McAllister. Liverpool's rumored. Arsenal is rumored, which I would love for him to come to Arsenal. A lot of Premier League clubs. Newcastle is seems to be the more aggressive one. But you know, rumor about $40-50 million for Alexis McAllister. He's a little older. He's 25, 26, I believe, but he's going into his prime. So you know, just quick little thoughts on Alexis McAllister. I'll start with you. I know you watched a lot of him when you were watching Argentina win the World Cup.
Absolutely, man. Alan he became a great fan of Argentina, especially from Messi. Yeah, I mean, he has been a player basically from nothing, just becoming a great soccer player, man. I mean, besides his height, he's not a very tall guy. He's a very short guy. You know, and play in England, you consider a short guy. You know about that. He's only about like 5'8", something like that.
5'8", 5'9", 5'9", yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So he's kind of short. He has great talent. Just like you said, Liverpool's pushing for him. Man, it's just so amazing what can a World Cup do to you. You know how much can he put you out there in the spot? Then the big teams start looking at you like, oh, you know, we got to have this player in our team. Whichever team he goes, I think he's going to do great. He's a great soccer player, very focused. Plus his brothers play soccer too. You know that, right? His older brothers and his dad played a World Cup in Argentina too. You know, so he has from a family from soccer. So I think he's going to do terrific, whichever team he goes to.
Hey man, for some reason, sometimes when I used to see Argentina play this World Cup, I was confusing McAllister with Messi. They're just around the same height, almost.
Yes,
they're white complected. So I was like, wait, who's that?
Fido, actually, when Argentina lost his first game, just real quick, Mark, when they lost his first game, they interview a fan from Argentina, right? He goes like, "Oh no, I don't know what he's doing with McAllister. he's a really short guy. He shouldn't be playing there. And I was like, whoa. I was like, man,
It's like they said. It's not about the size of the dog.
right,
It's the fight in
exactly.
the dog. And he's a dog.
Yeah,
He got that dog in him. And you talk about a midfield of McAllister, Enzo Fernandez, and Rodrigo De Pau. Those three right there basically dominated the midfield that Argentina needed to control the ball and control possession and be able to give the freedom that Messi needed to create and to be able to give assists to Alvarez and to all those guys, and for him to be able to score goals. So that midfield for Argentina was that's the reason why they're in high demand right now. Especially two of the guys that we just mentioned. Fidel, is there anything you want to add to it before we get off?
No, man. Look, it's been great. We got a show on Tuesday in Spanish and in English. We're going to be talking about La Copa del Rey final of course, Barcelona and Real Madrid. We'll see who takes that one. La Supercopa, I'm sorry. And then we're also going to be talking about El Clásico and many other things around the Premier League. And then other than that, man, just show some love on Twitter, show some love on YouTube. Hit it, like, and subscribe, and just pass it on to your friends. Again, we're just home friends talking about soccer and drinking a little, enjoying ourselves.
Little, is there anything you want to add to before we go?
Just thank you guys. Just for the guys in the chat. Nino, thank you for joining us. Samair,
Night.
Pato, yeah, Night 77 Night. Just thank you guys, and we're gonna try to make our best. Just like Fidel said, we just guys hanging out, having a soccer talk, drink a beer, and listen to your opinions too, man, which is really important for us, man. Thank you guys.
Yeah, guys, thank you for joining us. Obviously, it's a special edition of the Bunga podcast, with the winter transfer window going on. This is part one of the show. We'll do part two as soon as February 1st comes around, after all the deals have been done, closed and sealed, so we can recap to see, which teams got better and which teams didn't needed to do something but didn't do anything. But yeah, thank you for all the love and support. We'll have our show back on regular time Tuesday. This is at 7:30 Spanish show. Recapping the Clásico for the Supercopa de España, North London Derby, the Manchester Derby, just a bunch of rivalry games this weekend. So a lot to talk about. We'll see what happens, and we'll see if there's any trophies lifted for my beloved Barcelona or for Little Man's beloved Madrid. With that being said, guys, football is life, man, and life is football, and we're here enjoying it, and we're gonna keep enjoying it. And as long as you want to keep hearing us, we'll keep coming up, man. And if, like I said, follow us on Twitter at La Banca Podcast, at the La Banca _podcast. Follow us on our YouTube page. Just search up La Banca Podcast. We're the first ones that appear on there. Give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and get in contact with us any kind of way you can. We would love to get a hold of y'all, maybe bring you on the show, or just chat it up, man. We'll chat it up with you for as long as we can, man. All of us, we love to talk soccer. But with that being said, guys, thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time.
Yep. Check it out.